There are two things the Lord wants us to be reminded of. The first one is about our vocation as Christians. Jesus says that to follow him means that no one and nothing should come before him. He should be number one in our scale of relationships. Naturally, children love their mothers. Men love their wives, love their families. People love their brothers and sisters and their parents. Such intimate love, says Jesus, cannot supersede the love for him. In other words, what he is saying is that he should be number one. You should love Jesus before you love your father and your mother. As a child, there was nobody and nothing which could compare with my love for my mother. I was so attached to her. And now to tell me I should love someone more than I loved my mother would make me sit down and think. What does it mean to love Jesus? It is the kind of love that is beyond the ordinary. Our minds go back to John chapter 21, where Jesus was asking Peter, "Do you really love me more than these others?" And Jesus, in answering the question, because Jesus used the word agape. Agape is the Greek word for unconditional love. Love without limits. And in answering the question, Peter used the word you use, phileo, the word you use to describe your love for a friend or a family member. "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." In English, we use the same word, love, to translate both agape and phileo. And what Jesus is saying today, that love for a family, which in the heart of everyone exists. The first thing a child does is to smile at his mother, love his mother, suck the mother's milk. That's what the child is looking for. And therefore, this person who feeds me with her own milk is my first love. And Jesus is saying, if you don't love me even more than that your mother. Many young girls love their fathers so much. When the father is coming back from work, the baby girl will run to go and meet her. And Jesus is saying that love between a little girl and her father should not be more than the love for me. It is a bit frightening. So if I compare my love for Jesus and my love for my parents or friends, which one is placed higher in the scale? And if I'm honest, I will be able to tell. But that's homework for all of us. When you go home and ask yourself, how much do I love Jesus? And when it concerns vocations, no one can readily say yes to Jesus when he calls him to be a priest if that kind of love is not there. You have to love Jesus more than your own life in order to become a priest. An intelligent young man who has the whole future before him. It could be anything. It could be an engineer, a medical doctor, a lawyer, a professional of some sorts, and a millionaire. And he abandons all that to go into the seminary where his freedom will be limited. You can't watch TV after 9 o'clock. You have to go to the chapel to pray for 1 hour. You have to pray. You have to pray more. You have to pray all more. You have to study in the library and pass your exams. You have to go on apostolic work. And when you are there, you have to live a good Christian life and all that. The young man submits himself to this regimentation, which is more than the military regimentation. And he becomes a priest. And he's isolated from others. He lives alone. He comes to church, and people expect him to do everything for them. Hardly do people ask him, "How are you doing, Father? How are you, Father?" It will sound strange to the ears of the priest if people ask him, "Did you sleep well?" But that's exactly the second part of the gospel, which corresponds with the first reading. The prophet Elisha always traveled and met one woman, a wealthy woman, and the woman wanted to show generosity to this holy man, this God's spokesman. And whenever Elijah on his journey came there, it became a permanent arrangement. The woman said, "Whenever you are passing here, please come and stay the night here with us." Elisha noticed that the woman had no child, and he prayed for her and said to her something similar to what the angels said to our father in faith, Abraham. They said to him, or their leader said to him, "By this time next year, your wife will have a baby boy." Sarah, hearing it from behind the door, began to laugh. She laughed because it seems this man doesn't know that I'm an old woman. How can an old woman get a child? Abraham and his wife got that blessing from the angels, through the angels' intercession, because they were kind to these strangers. This woman, who always welcomed the prophet Elisha, got the blessing of the prophet because she was kind to the prophet. Our bishop, at times when he preaches during the Chrism Mass, he tells people this way: love your priests, encourage your priests. Who is a priest? All of us, through baptism, are members of the body of Christ, and we share in the threefold office of Christ as priest, prophet, and king. But from among us, this nation of priests, Christ still calls a few to serve him more closely and to be ministers, that is to say, servants of the sacred mysteries among the people, to serve the people in their relationship with God and speak to the people on behalf of God. Ordinarily, they do what I call, they talk to God in nomine populi, and they talk to the people in nomine Dei. But beyond that, there is something more, something higher, something more intimate than Elisha's relationship with God. These priests of the New Testament are in fact those who perform the actions of Christ, or rather, Christ performs his actions through them, so that through the Catholic priests, the ministry of Christ continues in the world. So that Christ, who baptizes, does so through the priest. Christ, who offers his body and blood in the sacrament of the Eucharist does so through the priest. Christ, who forgives sins through the sacrament of reconciliation, also does that through the priest. That is why we say that the priest celebrates Mass, the priest baptizes, the priest hears confession in persona Christi capitis. In other words, when you see a Catholic priest, you are actually seeing Christ, because he speaks the words of Christ, he performs the actions of Christ. Or better still, Christ performs his actions through him. Therefore, I support the bishop when he says, love your priests. In some parishes, not only here in Sweden, but also in many parts of the world, people are so antagonistic to priests that the priest feels unloved, unwelcome. Like other human beings, when you feel unloved, you can't do your best. You will only feel depression when nothing you do is appreciated. But in places in the world, including here in Sweden, when the priests feel loved and appreciated, they do much more. They do their best. If you give a cup of cold water to these little ones who are mine, you will by no means miss your reward. St. Paul, while writing to the Philippians, if you read chapter 4, mentioned that the Philippians sent a gift to him while he was in prison. He said, I have never troubled you for gifts or anything. Yet, my joy is not just because of the thing that you have sent to me. It is the gain that is amounting in your account in heaven, saying the same thing that Christ has said today. That when you give something to somebody because he's a messenger, a servant of Christ, a priest, Christ blesses you. This is a reality. It is true. Now, should the priest go cap in hand to say to people, I'm a priest, please give me a gift? No. No priest does that. But people spontaneously try to fulfill this obligation that Christ has given them. If anyone gives something to a prophet because he is a prophet, he will by no means lose a prophet's reward. But if you give something to someone because he is my disciple, my priest, you will by no means miss your reward. Let's meditate on that, and let's do just that.